Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Jane Stewart, I'm the Principal Curator of Art here at the Tasmania Museum and Art Gallery, and joining me is Rosie Dennis, who's the Creative Director of Liberty, or Hobart Current Liberty, the exhibition which opened at TMAG just last night. So we're going to begin with an acknowledgement, and I acknowledge that TMAG is on the country of the Muwinina people who didn't survive British colonisation. And I pay my respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community. I honour Aboriginal elders, past and present, and value the history, culture and strength of the Tasmanian Aboriginal community. So Rosie, I thought we could begin by talking maybe briefly about Hobart Current and how it came to be and what it is. And then we might move into Liberty and how you came to the ideas behind Liberty.
So thanks, Jane. So Hobart Current is a new 2-year project, and it's the New Look Hobart City Art Prize. So 3 years ago, TMAG and the City of Hobart kind of got together in a room and thought, what could we do that's really about investing in local artists, supporting new work by Tasmanian artists and also artists outside of Tasmania, but predominantly Tasmanian artists. And Hobart Current was born, and the word current is really critical to the bigger vision of what this project is, because it really wants to have conversations that reflect and speak to contemporary Tasmania, but more broadly Australia.
That's right. And what about Liberty? How did you come to, the ideas behind Liberty, which is the title that you've given the show?
Yeah, look, great question. And it's briefly, liberty is a really fraught word. And equally, it's got lots of tensions held within that word. It's got lots of particular points of reference as well through history. But at the time when I was putting in the expression of interest for this particular role, I really wanted to explore what our own personal freedoms are looking like, and do that from a very personal perspective, but equally also grapple with urgent big conversations. So I'm really excited by all of the works we've commissioned, because the artists have been really brave in picking off, being part of a bigger conversation, I guess. And I think the works equally kind of show the tension that's held within Liberty.
Yeah.
Lost and found.
Yeah. So there are 10 new works in this exhibition. Each artist has received $15,000 each to develop their work. I wonder if we can begin by sort of starting, two of the works, there are 10 new works. 2 of those works are in public space. So maybe while we're talking about Liberty, we can begin with the first work that you would encounter if people were here visiting the exhibition, which is actually at Franklin Square, just up the road, and then walk down the road to Brigitte Osland's work, and then through into the galleries.
Yeah, so Cynthia Mansell's an incredible artist. She has produced an absolutely beautiful work in 3 parts. So as Jane says, it starts up in Franklin Square, and really encourage people to kind of sit with the work in that space, and then to walk down into the courtyard of TMAG. And it's so powerful to hear her voice as you kind of walk through those big gates with all this sandstone and into this institution that within and of itself has got the tension of being both a museum and a gallery, which I think is unbelievably exciting, actually, and really filled with heaps of opportunity. But to get to kind of the TMAG courtyard, you walk past an unbelievably timely statement that Brigitte Oslands has installed on the facade of a building. I raise up my voice. I raise up my voice. Yeah, okay. We'll keep moving. Come on through with us.
So I guess maybe we could talk briefly about how the artist was selected.
Yeah, look, it was. I felt quite committed to opening out this process because this is the first Hobart current.
Yeah.
And well, you and me, we went for a drive, right?
We did.
Around the state, and we
Yep.
met around 170 artists and just introduced the project to them and introduced kind of the curatorial provocation as well around liberty. And out of that, then we had a really simple EOI process, which people, how many did we have again, EOIs?
Well, I think it was about 170 people who responded, but
Yeah. It was a lot of ideas in the room, and then really it came down to not easy, kind of picking 10 or commissioning 10, but it was a mix of absolutely wanting to have a First Nation, like a strong First Nations voice, and so our oldest artist is Uncle Wes Mars, as you know, and he turns 99 on April 26. And very important to have international artists. We've got Surya Hurlumbung down the back. But I was looking at just practice, but really artists who wanted to engage in a bigger conversation, and whose work I felt like sparked a bigger conversation. And absolutely looking at artists who had something that was very personal to say in relation to liberty, because that's one way to affect change, by really diving into someone's own personal experience, but equally not solely having a show that sits in that kind of really authentic personal space, also inviting into that conversation big ideas that connect us globally. So that felt really important to be able to do that. So, and I think we've done it.
I think so too. So in the first gallery, as you enter, and we're there now, there's Surya Hurlumbung's work at the back of the gallery, which really kind of holds that space. But maybe just a few words about Surya's gorgeous little figures. And Surya himself,
look, Surya has a relationship with Tasmania, actually. He's been here on a residency at a sculpture studio here for some time, and we were hoping that he was going to come back over and make this work here, but he's based in Indonesia, and all of this work was made while he was locked down, locked down, that's what it is. And I mean, there's something equal parts beauty and grotesque around what he's done. Definitely, we've got the bells in the background, ringing change from Sarah Jane Pell. But I think a number of people have kind of commented the fact that the only sense connected with this is the sense of sight. You know, each of the sculptures or figures have got an eye looking out, and so you think around that being in lockdown and how we see what we're looking to, how we're reaching out. I mean, there's lots you can say about this work, but come in and just spend some time. We've tried to, working with the artist, build not too prescriptive, but have some kind of relationship as well, with the little humanoids, the figurines, the sculptures.
So moving to the bells.
Should we have a ring?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So there are 8.
So people should absolutely kind of come in and ring the bells. Sarah Jane Pell, it's really hard to hear with all those bells. But it was, I was equally excited when I read Sarah Jane Pell's idea for how she might realise the work connected with liberty. I mean, bells, bells have such, are so loaded and have so many different meanings. and certainly haven't always been. I connected to liberty lost and liberty found, and so I really wanted to have bells call people into the space. Call people into all of the works in this space, and I love the title. It's really an empowering title, like Brigida's work as well. I raise up my voice. This is ringing change. So whilst I think there's a number of works in the overall project that actually have great sadness, equally, we want to be hope-filled still, right? We want to believe that we can change things.
I think that's a good moment to sort of step into Jagat's work.
Yeah. So Jagath Tahir Sakata is a Sri Lankan artist. He's based in Australia now though, he lives in Western Sydney. And this work was filmed over a number of trips to Sri Lanka. And it's a very powerful personal story. So this work is realising Jagath's own personal experiences of a particular moment in his life. I'm just going to leave it at that, Jane, and just really encourage people to come in and to sit with this work though. Read the artist statements, definitely engage with how the artist is understanding their work in relation to this broader thematic as well is really important. Yeah.
So around the corner from Jagath is a work by James Newt, who many Tasmanians will know, but James has made his home for the moment in Portugal, in Lisbon.
And he's staying. What a beautiful, I don't want to be too loud because people are in, but that's a very beautiful image in and of itself. So,
what's the work about?
Well, I was just watching the sea, but so sometime, it was maybe about 18 months ago, James and I were having a conversation around, he discovered this data island. So really an island which had towers and towers of people's data stored there, and which is kind of a really extraordinary image for us to consider. I think particularly as well now that we're all in a time of a lot of data is getting captured all the time on all of us, and then the poetic image of being at sea. I love the title of his work as well.
From the Sea.
Freedom.
It's great. Yeah.
Which, I don't know, is all our data in 2 data banks free in the sea? Maybe. But James has been, an absolute delight to kind of collaborate with. With his work, I think definitely sit kind of in that beautiful long space. Yeah. That felt really important as a way to experience that work. But there's 2 screens as well, which kind of just help build out what that work is for people when you come in and have a look. Okay, now we find ourselves in this. I think it's quite a, it's very visually arresting, and but I find it quite meditative in here. I think it's, the objects kind of spinning, the gentle kind of blows. This is Nadej Filippinon and Jacob Leary's work in this space. So Nadej is kind of on this side of the space where Jane and I are now, and where Veronica's kind of filming, and then we've got Jacob's work, sort of the micro, macro nature of all of the excess that's dripping and dropping with what he's created. This is a space just to come and be. I would say when you come into the gallery, there's lots to think about in this room. I would say, absolutely. These 2 works, I love the way that they respond to each other and speak to each other, but come at a really big, very urgent and important conversation from 2 very different perspectives. But the detail of Jacob's work is absolutely exquisite. Yeah.
hours and hours and hours of work.
Hours.
For every artist, hours and
Yeah.
hours and hours of work.
It is. It really is. I think that's been the really great thing about Hobart Current. You know, there's not very many opportunities like this for artists to really dive in and to make a new work. And even though COVID has been really challenging, I know for the 10 artists who've been connected to this particular project, it's been really great to work towards.
Yeah, that's been a good point. So this exhibition was supposed to open in September. 2020. And because of COVID, we had to put it off.
Yeah.
You know, which has come with its own kind of benefits, but pitfalls as well.
Yeah. I love the landscapes that are made also in this. I mean, there's so much detail and thought in Nadeja's work. I find it very expansive and exciting to kind of dive into what she's created.
Me too.
I really love it.
This is the world of the sort of natural artificial, isn't it?
That's
this
it.
gallery.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So we're going to walk into Dexter Rosengrave's new work.
Yes, Dexter
And we could all dance.
Yeah. Well,
Because that's what Dexter would like us to do.
Dexter would love us to dance.
Yeah, I won't be doing that on camera.
But it's so we're in 4-channel kind of video work in here. Beautiful. This is Dexter in their own work, and I think what's really fabulous about this work, well, there's lots of things, but really Dexter making a broader social comment on clubs for particular communities are actually really safe spaces, and they're places that you can be emancipated and free. And at the time of making this work, there's a really significant club in Hobart that closed. So this work's equally poignant for the LGBTQI plus community down here.
And now here we are.
It's our 10th artist. This is Uncle Wes Mars. So he's a big and bull man, hailing from Queensland, southeast Queensland, and he now lives in Western Sydney. And Uncle Wes was going to be here initially in person, and he's a storyteller. So, again with COVID, this is another project that. Hang on, Rosie. Sorry, everyone.
So if you're interested, please meet your guide in the central gallery. Thank you.
Sorry, keep going.
But this is another work that sort of evolved. The content is still what Uncle Wes would have shared, and but he would have been here telling much more of his story in this place. But that's okay. This has been a really new experience for him as an artist. But in it, I think what's really beautiful is he's got some fabulous things to say just around, for him, personal freedom, just with the really simple things he has done in his life to see in another day.
Yeah.
To see in another day.
So it's another work to spend time with. So I guess the message to people who might be watching is please come, but make sure you make the time to spend the time with many of the works by these artists.
That's it, yeah. Come and spend time. Like, give yourself just an hour to be, so you can move through everything. And I think because of the AV or the video work, you do need to sit with that to take away the full understanding what the artist is wanting to say.
Yeah. So that's the kind of quick tour of the galleries, those galleries, and we're just walking up the stairs now to see Cynthia Mansell's work, or the one part of her 3-part work, Liberation of Country.
So if people kind of are diving into the gallery, and with Cynthia's work, I reckon either do the downstairs gallery and finish off your TMAG experience up here, and then walk back through the courtyard and then back up to Franklin Square. Or if you're in Franklin Square, then I'd go Franklin Square, TMAG courtyard, and I'd come straight up to the salon. You know, so you kind of...
there's no... Yeah, that's a good idea.
So you're building.
You're not missing a moment.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could talk briefly about the kind of pace of Synth's work, but the frequencies and the 3 different frequencies that we hear when we experience it.
Yeah. What do you mean by the pace of her work?
Sorry, I meant the fact that there are 3 of them, I suppose.
Got you.
So you've already said, you kind of advised people how they might experience it, but
Yeah, look, I think, frequencies are really powerful, and if you think about Synth's, the title of her work, Liberation of Country, each of the points where her work is playing has different frequencies, different vibrations, and an invitation for people to listen differently. I think the work in Franklin Square, there's a sparseness to it, however it intersects very much with the everyday, because you've got the lanes of traffic, which works beautifully, I think, because we want this stuff in the real world. We want to be reminded on whose country we're on.
Well, of all the spaces to be liberated in Hobart, Franklin Square is one of them.
So Synth's work needs time to sit and just to deeply listen and to just to reflect. Every single work is an invitation to go deeper and to think about your own individual place in this city, but also in the world. And that's why, just to come back to Jane's point, spend time. And with something like Franklin Square, since it's work up there, you can walk through it every single day. You can have your lunch there every day. And just be with that work.
And I love the thought that people don't expect to come across that work in Franklin Square, and then there they are, amongst it. And I've seen people kind of sitting there and looking around to kind of try and work out what's happening. But they stay. I've noticed people really choosing to stay in that space while Synth's frequency is happening around them.
Yeah. So every sound in Synth's work, as well as her voice.
Yeah.
So nothing's been manufactured through, using electronics. It's all her voice.
Yeah.
And it's all the vibrations, rhythms of her voice. And also, it's important that I love about the Franklin Square and the courtyard. It's important to have language. It's out there, it's in public, and we're hearing it. And the more we can be hearing and listening language and just engaging, we're just going to keep, moving things forward.
Rosie, thank you.
Thank you
for being, a wonderful kind of friend and person to work with throughout this process. It's been a 2-year partnership, so thank you. And is there anything you want to say before we sign out of this tour?
No, I would say come along. Come along. Bring your friends. And it's on for a couple of months.
Sorry, there's one thing I will say. We also have the Liberty Canvas.
True.
So people can access the canvas through the Hobart Current website, which is hobartcurrent.com, I think, maybe .au. Try both.
No, it's just hobartcurrent.com.
Thank you. And so the Liberty Canvas, do you want to talk just for a minute, very quickly, about what the canvas is?
Look, it's really great. There's kind of a public program sitting all around the exhibition, but the canvas is in particular working with 5 schools. And so a number of the Liberty artists really shared their process with the school, with the class at school, and then provocations came out of those sessions with the students, and Liberty Canvas has been a way to kind of capture what the younger people are responding to and how they've responded within that process. So I think it's really great to dive in and have a look. And when you're on the Hobart Current website, I would also say it's worth having a look at the artist vlog. So the artists have been really terrific, and they've each recorded a couple of just to camera vlogs about their process over the last 2 years, and I think some of them really are worth diving in. All of them are, because they just build out the work again and build out the experience.
Thanks, Rosie.
But thank you.
All right.